The views expressed by the host of this podcast are not opinion-based or for entertainment purposes. They are actually facts and truth, no matter if other people like it or not. It is the Detroit sports truth, and nothing can ever stop it from being correct.
Hey there, Detroit sports fanatics, and welcome to episode 201 of the Detroit Sports Truth on Spreaker, the show that actually gets it right and reveals the truth instead of just being honest with lazy opinions. Please share this podcast on all social media networks. Thanks very much. I'm Taylor Phillips. I'm live from my basement apartment office in the northern outskirts of McBain, Michigan, where it's only snowing out. It's not really a snowstorm, unlike the weather in the middle and southern portions of the mitten. And with me is, as always, on Facebook Messenger Audio is my co-host Ed Smith. Thanks so much for being on here with me. How's the weather down there in Georgia? And Ed's Wi-Fi is not working, so thanks so much for being
there on live, Taylor.
Yep.
Yeah, I apologize for that. It's quite funny when that you say it was going through some slight snow, whereas tonight down here in Georgia there's been some heavy rainfall near and around my area. It was like there was at one point where it felt like it was a monsoon outside, but trivial things such as weather, we had quite a loaded weekend, and some, on the most part, very positive weekend for our sports team. So let's get right into that, shall we?
Yeah, we're going to start with the Red Wings and how they did in their Stadium Series game in Denver, plus the game in Dallas, and the Jakob Kindle trade, which went down on the same day they played in the Stadium Series. The Pistons are starting to dominate college basketball, including the Michigan Wolverines and the Michigan State Spartans, who have moved up in the rankings in the nation yet again. We'll get to that a bit later, sometime later. We'll also touch on the Lions showing interest in a strong safety, and the Tigers starting exhibition play in spring training in Lakeland, Florida. That's just the state that it's south of the state Ed Smith lives in. So, let's get started with the Red Wings. The Red Wings went to Denver for the Stadium Series game at Coors Field, playing their old blood rivals, the Colorado Avalanche. And we already discussed on the 200th episode that it was a blood rival that started in '96. The 97 brawl fueled it, all the rest of it. And then since Patrick Waugh retired, it all started to wind down, and both teams started playing more fair and cleaner and such. But fast forwarding to last Saturday, the Wings beat the Avalanche 5-3. It was back-to-back. It was a seesaw. The Wings took a 1-0 lead. The Avs took a 2-1 lead. Gustav Nyquist tied it with a no-look backhand wrister over Semyon Varlamov's left shoulder. Yikes. And Justin Abdelkader one time to centering pass home to give the Wings a 3-2 lead, but the Avalanche tied it up. And then a heck of a play with a minute sharp left in the third period when Brad Richards tipped it just over Varlamov and into the net. It popped up like over Varlamov's head, and it just knuckle pucked, pulled off a Russ Tyler type knuckle puck.
I think that
and
goal
went
is
in the
more
net.
so a combination. I think that goal is more so a combination of some of the outdoor conditions. Because I'm pretty sure how everything is conditioned outside, not necessarily the weather, but the how the ice looked out on the outside as opposed to being in a controlled situation inside in an arena. That might have affected things of how the puck moved around, how it came up off the ice on certain shots. Also, that was about not only was that a no look, whereas Nyquist, did it with no look. Varlamov had his vision blocked. He had his whole entire vision blocked, and what he'd done at that moment was on his knees, thus left that high space over his shoulder just open for a possible shot to get through. And with Nyquist, the way he had such a quick release, it was perfect timing at the perfect time, at the perfect moment that enabled that goal to get in and sneak in behind Varlamov to open up the scoring.
And then Darren Helm with the empty net goal with under a half minute to go, pretty much sealed it. The Wings won 5-3, and then they went into Dallas 2 nights later, and Andreas Athanasiou stole most of the show. He scored both regulation goals. In the first one was on the rebound in the second period, but the Stars responded later in the second period to tie it at 1, and then Andreas Athanasiou, just like his dazzling goal against the Charlotte Checkers, he did it again in Dallas, around that one defender and just roofed it past Antti Niemi and gave the Wings a 2-1 lead. But Jonathan Ericsson, who was ready to return after missing 6 games with a lower body injury, turned the puck over while trying to clear the puck with very little effort. He gave it right to one of the Dallas Stars players who was waiting right at the corner of the blue, right at the far corner of the blue line, right to left across the television screens. He easily knocked it down. Ericsson just gave it away. I don't know if he even saw him or not, but it was a miserable giveaway, just like so many of the others that he committed.
Ericsson did not do a good job clearing it. It was also a bad sequence for him entirely. Not only did he didn't do a good job clearing it, I thought, looking back on it, he was moving a bit, I guess you could say, lackadaisical would be the proper word, because I'm trying to make it sound as nice as possible by saying he moved slow out there, which led to that game-tying goal. But we got to call it what it is. That's what it looked like to me, at least. So it's a good thing, right, that Dotsic was able to get the goal in overtime. Otherwise, there'd be a whole bunch of...
Yeah, Ed's Wi-Fi is having trouble again. But yeah, Jonathan Ericsson is pretty damn slow and does a lot of things wrong. He's a piece of trash and a sack of crap. And he shouldn't even play in the NHL at all. That led to the tying goal that forced overtime. So it was tied at 2 in overtime. Yeah, we apologize for this. So Ed is back on the air. Again, that Erickson turnover, just like so many of the others, led to the tying goal. It spoiled Athanasiou's performance and Howard's performance. It almost lost us. It almost lost the Red Wings the game, but Gustav Nyquist in overtime drew a penalty, which the referees called. They did not miss it. And Henrik Zetterberg and Pavel Datsyuk were out there, and Pavel Datsyuk on the rebound just put it into the empty net, and the Wings won it in overtime, and his goal was unassisted.
That was about as easy as a goal as you can get. You know, even if your name is Pavel Datsyuk, or for any player, period, especially if you're Datsyuk. But going back to what you mentioned before about Erickson spoiling a lot of things for that late bad performance in the third, you know, Jimmy Howard gave, once again, yet another, I would say, confident, adequate performance, because aside from that goof from Erickson, Howard only gave up essentially one goal for the majority of that game. So that's another confidence builder into what I think can be him being a very reliable backup, and little by little is building back up his trade stock. So if and when the Wings do eventually deal him, they'll be definitely getting something of value back in return. Athanasiou, like you mentioned, tremendous, absolutely tremendous, and the fact that he only did it in less than 15 minutes ice time is impressive on one hand, but just flat out baffling a little bit on another. It's when you see how he's performing, why would you, as a head coach, not see that as an essential? Considering what he's been doing for you beforehand, you thought that would have been a sensitive and known, hey, to increase his playing time a little bit more. But no, Jeff Blashill is deciding not to do that for whatever reason there is may be behind that. But I'm saying with this, you know, if I was the coach, I would do whatever I can. If this guy is being productive for me 1 week, I'm riding that hot hand as long as I could, especially in a game that's as many cold and hot streaks as it is in hockey. You need to ride.
Damn it! Ed messaged me that his tablet is acting stupid. Yeah, continuing on. You know what, guys? Just forget it. All right, Ed. I think you need a new tablet. Ed?
I'm still here, Taylor. I don't know what's going on with my connection for some reason. With me on my tablet, my phone, Messenger app is acting tricking.
Probably you need a new one of each, because
yeah. No, I mean these are fairly recent, so I don't know what's the hubbub here. But we're gonna try to get through this as best as we possibly can, ladies and gentlemen. We do apologize for the technical difficulties. That's not our intention. We're just rolling with the punches as we go along here. Back to my train of thought as we were talking about here. It was regarding the Red Wings. It's regarding we're recapping how they performed, how they looked in their 2 wins. We're going back and forth, so to speak, between what we saw in Dallas and what we saw at Coors Field against the Avs. I thought they showed great perseverance late against the Avalanche, even though things got a little hectic. Yeah, they really had to scratch and claw and earn that one, finding a breakthrough, taking the lead, and then only giving up a few seconds later, only for them to fight back. And Brad Richards, of all people, we've been deriding this deal that Ken Holland made in signing the veteran this past off season, which I do think we still have we're more than justified in doing based on what we've seen so far. But Richards in this game showed you that bit of clutch. I guess you could say, as Skip Bayless would call it, a clutch gene, as you would expect a person who's been a prominent player on on a multiple Stanley Cup championship winning team as the Blackhawks have been now over the past 5 or 6 years. So we saw a small element of that in Richards. Eventually, I guess you could say the game-winning goal, whereas the home goal was the empty netter was the icing on the cake. And then, of course, what we saw the other night in Dallas was the one thing I always noticed about Anthony Niemi, even going back with the Sharks in San Jose. Yeah, he was as good as any other great goaltender in the league, but every once in a while he would give you the prime opportunity for a juicy rebound. And I think that's what we saw in the first goal. In 2 of the 3 goals. The second one by Anthony Athanasiou was just tremendous. An absolutely beautiful display of movement and athleticism on his part. There was nothing Niemi could do about that. But on those other 2 goals, it came up as, in my opinion, if my eyes were reading correctly, came up as a result of rebounds. And that's one thing I've always known about Niemi. He will give you the rebounds. You just have to have a person there near the net to bury it. That's what we saw with Athanasiou, and of course that's what we saw with Datsyuk. So it's nice to see somebody in Detroit's playbook or whatever, in the scouting department, whoever the case may be, remember this, read up on it, and still in the players, and in Blashill to redistribute to the players, hey, have a guy near the net, because Niemi gives you rebounds. Take advantage of that. And that's what we saw here. So in these past 2 games, the Red Wings got 4 very big points. Granted, on those other 2, they had to really fight to earn those 2, but still, 4 points is 4 points, and now you're out of, granted, you are still in the wild card spot. You're still putting tons of pressure on the teams that are in front of you, namely the Boston Bruins. The Bruins at 75 points, I believe, right now at the moment, and the Bruins are at 76. A slip up here or there, Boston can find themselves in the wild card spot too. So you never quite know. It's nice to see things slowly but surely coming together now for the Red Wings at the most perfect timing of all timings during the season, which is near the end of the season, right before you get to start the playoffs, because you need to make sure who's rolling, who's clicking on all cylinders, who's hot, who's cold. You pretty much know for sure what you're going to get a goaltender for your goaltending worth with Peter Mrazek. Sorry, giving a tribute to Drew Sharp right there for a minute. Hope that doesn't continue. Whereas, and now you're starting to see a little bit of a connection, a little bit of heat up with your offense. We saw it in the game against Denver, and we saw it with Andreas Athanasiou against Dallas.
All right, Ed.
Are we live or are we on the air, Taylor?
Yep. Continue on.
Yeah. Listen, again, folks, I don't know what the heck's going on here, but like my mother always told me, you never let warm up, you stop any show. That's exactly what we're going to do here. Technical difficulties be damned. But to wrap up quickly on the Wings, it's nice to see certain things come together at the right time. It leads to a promising playoff run.
Yeah. You were saying you needed the when you first cut off. You needed the right. What were you saying?
It's the right combination of little things. You know what you're going to get in terms of your goaltending position, Peter Mrazek. Now you're starting to see your offense come alive a little bit, and it's just those little things that, when combined together, can give you quite a potent combination that can either make you a contender or a possible flash in the pan in the first round. We shall see what bodes in store for the Wings, because there's a lot of factors, whether it be opponent, seeding, matchup, home ice, all that stuff. But, with the right pieces and a certain right amount of luck, I would say, I think the Red Wings could have a very favorable first-round matchup, for sure.
Prashant Iyer on Twitter is telling us, at Iyer_Prashant, Boston won. Ottawa is in Florida. Ottawa is in OT. Florida is up in the third. Thanks for help, Atlantic. At least the saving grace is that New Jersey and Pittsburgh lost in regulation. Ottawa is about to bowl a perfect game. Don't screw it up. It was a shootout. Let's see here. Senators, 67 points is how they finished. Senators losing a shootout to the Blues 4-3. Capitals beat the Penguins 3-2. Hurricanes beat the Devils 3-1. Panthers, of course, beat the Jets 3-2. Let's see here. The Islanders beat the Canucks 3-2. That's in the Metropolitan Division. That was it for Tuesday night. So the standings look like this: Panthers 36-19-8 with 80 points. Get a sip of water here. The Lightning, 37-22-4 with 78, and the Bruins 35-23-6 with 76.
So again, there's still some teams, if you're the Red Wings, you could catch up and possibly surpass as we get closer to playoff time to establish your potential higher seed in the first round.
Yeah, and the Red Wings still lead the wild card with 75 points at 32-20-11. Penguins 32-22-8 with 72 points. Metropolitan Division. The Capitals 46-12-4 with 96. Going to reach 100 so quickly. The Rangers 37-20-6 with 80 points, and the Islanders 34-20-7 with 75. Still on the bubble, the Flyers 29-22-11 with 69 points. Hurricanes 29-26-10 with 68. The Devils, New Jersey, 30-27-7 with 67. Same exact record for the Senators. The Canadians 30-28-5 with 65. The Blue Jackets, forget them. They're pretty much done. So are the Sabres and Maple Leafs. The Wings' next opponent is the Chicago Blackhawks. They lead the Central Division with 83 in a three-way tie with 83 points with the Stars and the Blues. The Blackhawks, though, own the tiebreaker with a 39-20 and 5 record. The Stars 38-20 and 7. The Blues 37-20 and 9. So the Wings and Hawks home and home set Wednesday at 8 at the Joe on NBCSN's Wednesday night rivalry with Mike Emmerich, Eddie Olczyk, and Pierre Maguire. Please, Red Wing fans, stop bashing Eddie Olczyk and realize that he is more professional than you would ever think. The Blackhawks, let me see here. They're coming off a win, but it's not a streak. In their last 10, they are 5-4-1. They are 16-12-3 on the road. The Red Wings are 16-10-6 at home. They still have a differential between goals for and goals against at -2. They've been outscored 163-161. The Blackhawks have a +27 differential, 180-153. So, the Blackhawks, I believe, made some trades as well, and we're going to get to the Kindle trade. I promise you that, folks. But the Blackhawks are going to play the Red Wings really hard. Ed. Hey, Ed, you still awake?
Yep. Hello?
Yep. I'm still here. I can hear you. Can't you hear me?
Yeah, it's a little bit chippy, a little bit choppy, but I can hear you loud and clear.
All right. Analyze the Blackhawks for me.
Well, what else you could say? They are the defending Stanley Cup champions for a reason. They've been played. They still, granted, they did take away bits and pieces from their teams in this past offseason, namely Brad Richards being among them. They still have key core players. Among them, of course, their Patrick Sharp, Jonathan Tays, amongst others. Strong goaltending from Corey Crawford for the most part this year.
Patrick Sharp is a star.
It's not the best team in the West. So, right. So, this team...
they still have Patrick Kane.
I don't know how much they have energy-wise to make another deep run again, but it wouldn't surprise me in the least bit.
Yeah. Patrick Sharp is a Dallas Star. Patrick Kane is still a Blackhawk. But Patrick Kane was injured, I recall.
My apologies. I was thinking about Patrick Kane. You're absolutely correct. Even in the absence of Patrick Kane, they're still maintaining, I would say, you could say, an adequate record. Yeah. Give me one brief moment while I look. Check up on them. Things went a little slow for some reason tonight. You get my gist. The Blackhawks are one of the best teams in the league, definitely in the West. So this is no picnic, especially now in the home and home. So next game that the Red Wings have after that will be right back against the Blackhawks. Will only this time, I believe, this one will be in Chicago. So
yep, it's at United Center Sunday at 5 on Fox Sports Detroit.
Automatically, 2 tough stretch games back to back for the Wings. So hope for the best. If they manage to sneak one here at home, because I just don't see them getting in that madhouse in Chicago and coming away with a victory here. So I think it'd be very imperative for Detroit to do their best to come away with a win in this scenario, in this game, at home.
Yep, protect your home ice. So we go to the Kindle trade here. The Red Wings traded Jakob Kindle to the Florida Panthers for a 2017 sixth-round draft pick to save up to create $2 million in cap space, and that's all they did. Ken Holland didn't do anything bad. That's the good thing. But the only bad thing that is they were not willing to sell, because Ken Holland was again too loyal to his inept players like Jonathan Ericsson, Luke Glendening, Nicholas Kronwall, players like those. It was a tight scenario as we and Red Wings fans see it.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to have things too log jammed in that spot, but also this is kind of a deal rather, where it's nice and all, but really you could have had this done a long time ago. Kendall has not been that productive at all on a front period. So why you were making the fans suffer by keeping him this long on the roster, I don't know. But that's still a part of Ken Holland's loyalty that, again, can be used as a detriment against him. So I'll give him, say, hey, good job, but I'm not going to be giving up praise to something you could have done easily 2 years ago. So.
Right, and the Panthers also claimed Yuri Hudler from the Calgary Flames. I still think that's whom the Wings could have picked up, but again, Ken Holland said he was not willing to jeopardize the youth system by trading away their young players like Eric Tangradi, Anthony Mantha, or of course Andreas Athanasiou. Holland, of course, wants to see Athanasiou in a Red Wings uniform and perform as well as he did in Dallas, especially. For example, Andreas Athanasiou, I think, with 4 goals now, or is it just 3? Is it 4 goals?
You were saying, Taylor, I apologize for that.
Yeah. Andreas Athanasiou has either 4 goals or 3. I can check it for you. Statistics.
He's had at least 3 goals in the past few games. I'm not sure if it was 4, though.
Athanasiou. He's got 4 goals. I was right. 3 assists. That's 7 points in 18 games played.
Oh my goodness! So with that ratio, you would think it wouldn't hurt you if you're Jeff Blashill to give him just a little bit more playing time on the ice. I mean, what's a couple more minutes going to help? What's it going to help or hurt? You know what I mean? So after seeing what we saw against Dallas, I think that the message should be loud and clear. Andreas Athanasiou should be getting more minutes and more playing time, point blank and simple.
Yeah, I just ran into this article about Jonathan Ericsson, written by Bill Roos. It was a struggle, but Big E glad he played. That was his first outdoor game of his career in the NHL, which really doesn't matter. He's still the same old Jonathan Ericsson.
Yeah, that's not going to help matters on a whole lot of issues. So,
right. It's not going to help anything. Chris Osgood and Brendan Shanahan to join the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame.
Good for them. Well deserved.
Yep. Yeah, if only Shanahan quit the Maple Leafs president job, he would have his name. He would have his jersey number 14 retired at the new Detroit Events Center, where the Wings will play in fall 2018, which is near Ford Field in Comerica Park. Otherwise known as the District Detroit. It's almost it's getting it's in the process of growing, so to speak.
Well, that's good to see. On a multitude of fronts.
A couple of days ago, I saw a video of it, and it was beautiful.
Yeah, it is coming together very nicely. If this is one thing to help people feel a little bit better when you look at Detroit, this whole construction process would be a good indicator, especially when we see the finished product.
Right. So I think we covered everything Red Wings, so we're going to move on to the Pistons now.
Left sideline, 3, and he answers.
The Pistons got the revenge at Bradley Center on the Milwaukee Bucks, 102-91 in Milwaukee, and then they just unloaded on the Toronto Raptors in the second half after being tied at 52 at halftime. They beat the Raptors 114-101 at the Palace. I believe Tobias Harris continued to help the Pistons win, especially on offense. But Steve Blake, in the second half against the Toronto Raptors, 8 assists.
My goodness. 7 points, 8 assists, something along that line. For once, he contributed off the bench. This was quite fun to see because this was against one of the top 2 teams in the whole Eastern Conference. This is a Raptors team that was looking to get closer and closer to that top spot in the East that's currently occupied by the Cleveland Cavaliers. And they just whiffed. They whiffed big time. Now, granted, they decided to rest their all-star starting point guard Kyle Lowry in this one, so I'm pretty sure that played a factor into this. But that being said, Pistons still went out, they performed, they did their job at least, and they got the win. Couple that with the fact that, you're seeing the Chicago Bulls now having their own struggles. I believe if the standings are correct, now things might change, but the Pistons are either right behind or they're back in that 8th spot in the East, coupled with their 4-game winning streak, and of course the Bulls having a real mighty fall as of late.
Yeah, the Pistons have won 4 straight, which sets them in a tie for 7th place with the Indiana Pacers. 31-29 are both their records.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Holy jumping! I love it!
The Pacers have lost 3 straight.
Yeah, so that would explain why, now they're
and so have the Bulls.
7th. Yeah, the Bulls are right there on the outside looking in. Pistons and Pacers have that, tied for 7th, but Indiana gets a spot because they own the tiebreaker so far, and they're just nipping at the heels of the Charlotte Hornets. The Hornets have been one of the, I guess you could say, the surprise team so far.
Just a half game ahead of us.
Yeah. Them and I guess you could say the Hornets and the Pistons have been your 2 surprise teams. Meaning enough, they both come from the Eastern Conference. And like you said, slight separation. You could see the Pistons climb back up the ladder more and more. They could find themselves, if things go right, not only in the playoffs, but it gets them in a potential 6 or maybe even a 5th seed and avoids a matchup with, say, a Cleveland Cavaliers, for instance, or a fully rested all-starters with having Toronto Raptors team. So if you have the 6th spot, find yourself, let's say, hey, a Boston, Detroit versus Boston in the playoffs again, that brings up old nostalgic memories. Who wouldn't want to see that one? You will have more of an okay chance than, say, oh, you're facing LeBron in the first round. Yeah, I don't like your chances that way. But it's refreshing to see more capability, more diversity on the offensive side of things, especially now with the addition of Tobias Harris. Again, it takes pressure on it takes some pressure off of Reggie Jackson to try to do everything, try to score 25 plus every night, where in some instances he does have to, other instances he does not. And with Harris' sizing, it really helped you out in the rebounding aspect as well, which takes a lot of pressure off of Andre Drummond, which is another player where, you appreciate his effort every time it goes out, but it's not always needed on most occasions. Now, like you mentioned before, like we mentioned now with this winning streak, they've righted the ship a little bit. They seem to figure out what the hell's been going on, what's been going wrong, and for a little while they've fixed it, and now they're in a spot where they are right now. So kudos to them.
So the Pistons, again, 31-29 in a tie for 7th place with the Indiana Pacers, just a half game behind the Charlotte Hornets. Going to Pistons.com and searching the upcoming schedule for the Pistons. March is underway for them, and they play the San Antonio Spurs at AT&T Center. The Spurs are in 2nd place in the Western Conference, still in single digits in the loss column. $50-9. Just one. The San Antonio Spurs San Antonio Spurs are 50-9. Sorry, your phone cut off again. 2nd place in the Western Conference, just behind the Golden State Warriors, who are 54-5. San Antonio Spurs have had a history of winning so many NBA championships, and seems like every time. And the Spurs have won 5 straight. Fast forwarding back to today, the Warriors have won 6 straight. It's a neck and neck. It's a neck and neck race between the Warriors and Spurs. 2 Goliaths in a tight race for first place. A bit of a tight race.
Yeah, you could say it's kind of mirrors what we're seeing a little bit with the presidential campaign so far. You're seeing little big names, not big names, but well-known players trying to go out. That's what we're seeing here with the Pistons and the Spurs. Spurs trying to showcase, that despite what that one game against Golden State might have shown, they are more than capable of handling their own come playoff time. That's why they got LaMarcus Aldridge. That's why they got David West in the offseason. Whereas the Pistons, you're seeing a young team on the rise here with the likes of Drummond, Jackson, Harris, amongst others. And they're trying to forge their own identity. And, you're not in a conference that is as strong and as full of murderers that the West is. So Pistons had that opportunity to establish themselves here. So both teams, similar agendas, similar goals in certain instances, but, different perspectives, different spectrums. So it'll be quite interesting to see how this one goes around. The Pistons tried to give them a competitive game as much as possible last time they faced off the Palace. Just too much San Antonio. Tony Parker just went off with 31 points that night, showing his vintage form in the late stages of his career. So interested to see how the Pistons can handle it now knowing that this one's going to be on the road in that, I would say, a hostile crowd in San Antonio, and it's going to be on ESPN to boot.
Here's the hardest part. The Spurs are undefeated at home, 28-0. So are the Warriors, 25-0. The Pistons are looking to put a rare one in the loss column in the Spurs' home record. But of course, the Spurs the Spurs have Tony Parker, as you mentioned, the aforementioned Tony Parker, Tim Duncan, who still hasn't retired yet, and Manu Ginobili. But look for other X Factor players that can chip in.
Danny Green, for one, with his 3-point shooting. That'll be one player to look out for.
Yep. Yeah. Look to guard Danny Green. You can't leave Danny Green wide open. The Pistons have always left shooters from 3-point range wide open.
Yeah. And with a team that has an absolute sharpshooter like Danny Green, we've seen how he's done in the finals in the past couple of years. So he's more than capable of lighting things up if he gets on fire. If he catches it, he's almost look out because he's almost impossible to stop. I'm not sure if that much fanfare, as usual, a bit unfortunately regarding this, is being paid much attention to the Spurs because we're seeing how great of a job Golden State has done. But again, San Antonio's 50-9. They're undefeated at home. It wasn't for all the attention that Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, Draymond Green at the beginning for Golden State. You could more than easily shower this kind of attention on the Spurs team. Because, they're what the Red Wings wish they could be right now. They still have a strong foundation with at least two of their keystone franchise players. Whereas at the same time, still setting up things for the younger players to take over in the near future, while at the same time still competing at a high quality championship caliber level. It's outstanding. It's quite amazing. It's definitely a model you want to look to strive to achieve, not just in basketball, but in all sports. Because, again, this whole thing with what San Antonio's done, they've done it with one guy as their head coach. Which is, in and of its own, unbelievable. In and of its own, unbelievable. So, it's not some fluke that they've held on for a number of years over the looks right now. No, they've been a fundamentally built team from the get-go. Started when they got Tim Duncan, elevated even more when they added Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili, and now they're trying to repeat the cycle again. They're doing a damn good job of it so far when they brought in LaMarcus Aldridge. And they've done it all consistently, with great consistency, because Greg Popovich has been there for the whole ride, too. So, there's everything to consider. And again, like I mentioned before, Spurs are such a unique model. I wish more teams would try to emulate that in sports.
Another bad part about it is the Pistons are not going to have Brandon Jennings help them beat the Spurs because we all recall Brandon Jennings' game-winning layup with less than a second to go, and the Pistons head coach Stan Van Gundy urged them to form a flipping wall to hold on to win the game, which they did. But without Brandon Jennings this time, it's going to be a different approach.
Yeah, much more different approach. You're going to see try to take away so much penetration from the guard spot and just focus more on setting things up through the paint. You're seeing now what teams are seeing out of Tobias Harris, so maybe they try to guard about him a little bit more from the get-go, from the perimeter, so to speak, from the outside, which will then in turn open things up for a guy to cut and slash through the lane into the paint, or either the Drummond on the low post, let the big guy handle his own in that instance. And off we run in terms of, again, now we really reestablished and continue to establish now, through that method alone, how to be effective in the paint. That'll be something I'll be paying attention to for sure. What will they do? What can Detroit do to establish not just a balance attack, but also really try to take advantage of one area, and that is in the paint. It seems to be in most instances their strongest point. But as of late, they've really developed into quite a but a very above quality jump shooting team. Particularly from the 3-point line. They hit 11 3-pointers the whole entire game against Philly. He had 11 and a half in one half against the Raptors, I believe. I believe it was against the Raptors. I have someone else, but the point still stands here. They're starting to develop more into a 3-point. Now, again, with the addition to Tobias Harris, with his scoring, his offensive versatility and capability, it's giving you another shooter for other defenders to guard, which in turn is going to open up guys like, say, Marcus Morris or Reggie Jackson, so to speak. And also, whoever you bring from the bench. Maybe this is the wake-up call that Steve Blake needed so he can showcase how good he can be on any given night. So it'll be interesting to see how they're able to do against San Antonio's defense, because I'm sure Popovich, the surefire Hall of Fame coach that he is, if he's not inducted already, he's going to have that scouted out. So the Pistons better have found a way to counter what Popovich is going to do to counter them.
Yeah, it's just an all around very interesting matchup between the Pistons and Spurs. And then on Saturday, they go to Madison Square Garden again and tip off with the Knicks at 7. By the way, the Wednesday game in San Antonio is on both Fox Sports Detroit and ESPN. But moving on to the Knicks game at MSG, the Knicks 25-37, not as good. They've lost 2 straight, 15-18 at home. The Knicks are in 13th place in the Eastern Conference, 18.5 games back, 16-24 against the Eastern Conference. Not terrible, but just not good either. They still have Carmelo Anthony on their team. I'm not sure why Carmelo Anthony is still playing for the New York Knicks for a struggling team. Porzingis is still on the team. Look for him to perform.
Yeah, there's your young building block for the future with Carmelo. Take him at his word, but he's mentioned of how he doesn't. It's an issue of staying close to home, and let's not forget he did play his college hoops days at Syracuse, and I'm sure for a while he's always had dreams of playing in New York, playing at Madison Square Garden. But as a member of the Knicks, now that he has it, he probably doesn't want to give it up so freely, or whatever the case may be. So, Carmelo is taking full advantage of that, so to speak. But it'd be interesting to see, like, if somebody comes along with the right money, the right offer, and the right atmosphere, i.e., the right teammates that could not only exasperate his skills, but also make the team as a whole better. Don't be that surprised, because Carmelo is even as great a player he is a competitor, I believe, and he, I'm sure, at some point would like to do his very best to win a championship ring before he retires, not just collect money, make good shots and whatnot, but win a title, win a championship, win 2 if you can, even. So on the whole, it'll be see how this Knicks team reacts, because remember, the Pistons clowned them on national TV last time they met up, so I'm sure the revenge will be on their mind, without a doubt.
Yep. And the Pistons play back-to-back games again on the weekend. They return home to play the Portland Trailblazers at 6 on Sunday on Fox Sports Detroit Plus. The Trailblazers are in 7th place at a tie for 6th place with the Dallas Mavericks, 33-28. But we'll have to preview both the Knicks further and the Portland Trailblazers in full on episode 202 on the Detroit Sports Truth. Moving over to college basketball now.
Valentine for the win!
The Michigan State Spartans are now ranked 2nd in the nation after routing the Penn State Nittany Lions at Breslin Center 88-57. Taking a look at the rankings on ESPN.com, the AP Top 25, Spartans are behind the Kansas Jayhawks, who are number 1. 63 popular votes for Kansas, 2 for Michigan State. Behind those two, Villanova, Virginia's Xavier, Oklahoma, Miami, Florida, North Carolina, Oregon, and West Virginia. Iowa is ranked 16th. Spartans travel to Rutgers Wednesday night at 7. I think Rutgers not too terrible, but I think it's going to be too much MSU on that one.
It's going to be a layup. They're trying to get themselves ready for tournament time. Now, I'm not talking about the conference tournament. I'm talking about the big tournament, the big dance. This will be, it's close to an easy game you can get. Just the main primary focus here for Michigan State. Keep everyone as healthy as possible. Is what you can do here. You have Valentine, you have Costello, you have Forbes as your three-headed senior monster. The last thing you could do or ill afford is an injury happening at the worst possible moment here. So, do your business, sure, but stay healthy, please, in the process. That's what I'll be saying if I was an MSU fan.
Yep. And for the Michigan Wolverines...
For 3, yes, sir!
They gave it a good fight at Wisconsin, but the Badgers beat them 68-57 on the road at Madison, Wisconsin. Michigan has off until Saturday, I believe.
Yeah, it's Saturday the 5th, this Saturday. In fact, they'll be taking on the Iowa Hawkeyes.
At 8 o'clock on BTN.
Team in the nation. Yep, and it's going to be their final game of the regular season. Hopefully they'll have a better chance. They'll do better in terms of taking care of the ball and have better protection from downtown than they've done, really, in the past few games. You don't want to see them, if they do make the tournament, you don't want to see them limping in like this because it puts you on that potential bubble watch. So if you can find a way to put together a win here and showcase a respectable showing in the conference tournament, then, in my opinion, definitely takes you off that bubble, and now we just figure out what seeding you get on Selection Sunday.
I just checked the Spartan schedule. They have 2 games left. The other game, the last one, is home against Ohio State, Saturday at noon. That is on ESPN. So we'll preview that on episode 202. And then the Big Ten tournament starts next Wednesday. It's going to be on BTN, ESPN, and ESPN2. But the Big Ten Conference Championship Series here. Big Ten men's basketball statistics. Go to big10.org. Michigan State is second place behind Indiana. And Michigan is 8th place, 10-7. Let me see here. Indiana is 24-6, 14-3 in the conference. Michigan State, of course, is 24-5, 11-5 in the conference. Michigan is 20-10 and 10-7 in the conference. Ohio State 7th place, 19-11 and 11-6. Wisconsin now 19-10 and 11-5. Iowa, Wisconsin in 4th place. Iowa 6th place, 29 and 11-6 in a 3-way tie between Ohio State and the Purdue Boilermakers. Rutgers 0-16 in the conference, 6-23 overall. Dead last in the Big Ten. Michigan State should pancake them.
That's a gimme. That's an absolute layup.
Yep, like you mentioned. So with that, all that covered quickly. Going to the NFL Combine, let me see here.
Touchdown, MSU!
Looking at Bleacher Report's updates here. Michigan State quarterback Connor Cook ran 480 unofficial at the 40-yard dash. He's the number 5 overall quarterback, according to Bleacher Report. Aaron Burbridge ran 458. Shalik Calhoun, 483. And that's it. I've got a lot of editing to do. Hey, Verizon Wireless, get your damn tower to stop acting up. The damn weather is not an excuse. Verizon's tower is having problems. That's the real problem. That's what my phone's been going through. It's not your connection's fault. It's the network over there. Which carrier do you have?
My internet provider is through AT&T, and my carrier for my phone is through Metro PCS.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, continuing on. Yeah, as I mentioned before, Connor Cook ran 480. Aaron Burbridge, 450. 458. Shalik Calhoun, 483.
Well, nice to see. Nice to see.
That's it.
Yeah, good to see them showing on a good display at the Combine.
All right, and speaking of NFL football.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions!
The Lions are not going to get Von Miller because the Denver Broncos, the Super Bowl champion Denver Broncos, have put the franchise tag on him. Let's see here. According to multiple reports, 60 career sacks, 16 forced fumbles, about three of them in Super Bowl 50, as they handed the Carolina Panthers their first loss, their second loss of the season. So the Lions moved on and took a look at Cincinnati Bengals strong safety George Iloka and showed some interest because he recorded 47 tackles last season with the Bengals. So, do you want to analyze George Iloka for a bit? Because we're going to save that for 5. We're going to save whether or not the Lions should pick him up for 5 questions.
Let me do some slight research into that, Mr. Aloka. I'm sure they looked into what he saw in Cincinnati, because I think Cincinnati, I guess you could say, has a very profitable defense. Not just, granted, there's some troubleheads on that one, but they're still talented players. Of course, Fonte's perfect, Adam Jones, and now we have George Aloka here. Not necessarily known for getting you picks, but he can provide you good tackles and coverage. Not necessarily known for getting space, getting burned in space, I should say. And they're really what I see them doing here with this move. They're trying to replace James Ahedegbo and trying to do it at a cheaper price.
Yeah, we recall they released James Ahedegbo along with C.J. Wilson and Stephen Tulloch. They're just, again, like we talked about earlier, they're trying to create more as much cap space as they can, but they're in the process they're just dismantling like almost most of their defense.
Yeah, it's quite interesting to see. I mean, I think really the only question mark is on the offense, aside from the offensive line and how you're going to fix that, is the only question mark on offense this year is will Calvin Johnson come back? Whereas if you're Detroit, they're trying to save up as much money as they can. For even if Calvin Johnson retires, you'll still be okay offensively. It's a piece missing that you wish you could have, but it's like having that last piece of candy after you already eaten a buttload of cake. You know what I mean? Now, whereas here on the defensive side of things, you need a couple of things. You're going to need a linebacker. You're going to need a pass rusher. You're going to need some help in the secondary. Okay, that's 3 things right there at least. Not to mention getting some valuable backups as well for your second unit. So I could see them going the route of maybe you'll get your linebacker in the draft, maybe hoping Miles Jack falls through, or maybe you pick up a very good linebacker from that showcased good athleticism in the combine. I know one player from Georgia, his name escapes me at the moment, but he had a quite impressive 40 time as well. That could be a guy on their radar in terms of who, or at least the position of need that they must fill, whether it be in the draft. I would say the draft, and then in the off season as well. So even if they're not getting Von Miller, which was the smart thing for Denver to do. If anything, keep him under your wing for at least one more year before he tries to get his big payday. So it forces a lot of teams going in different directions, namely including the Lions, in my opinion.
All right, well, last topic before 5 questions, the Detroit Tigers.
That one is long gone.
Well, they kicked off exhibition play with a 7-2 win over the Florida Southern Moccasins. They only put 7 runs on the board, but they held the Moccasins to just 2 runs. Not only with their pitching, but their defense as well. Then they lost to the Pirates 4-2. Tigers offense off to a bit of a slow start. They play in split squad action Wednesday afternoon in Tampa against the Yankees, and then in Clearwater against the Pirates again. Then taking a look at the rest of the Tigers' schedule. On Tigers.com. By the way, Victor Martinez hit a 2-run home run. Those were the only 2 runs the Tigers were able to muster on the scoreboard against those Bucks. Looking at the rest of the schedule through Friday, Tigers play at Walt Disney World in Orlando against the Atlanta Braves, and then they play in Lakeland against the Yankees. And in case and in case episode 202 gets pushed, the Tigers visit the Washington Nationals at 1:05 on Saturday. So, for those of you who are saying spring training games don't count just because they're exhibition,
that is not what I want to hear. What's your problem there, pal? Can't a guy get a bit of sleep? Don't bug me.
Well, it's just a way to get things, shake off some of the rust from the off season. That's all. That's all I would say is shake off rust from the off season and help you plan out in advance how are you going to game plan things when the real season starts.
Yep, absolutely. But the preseason does matter. Most people, some people might think it still doesn't matter.
Ah, shut up, you idiot. What? Oh.
But it does. So that's it for Tigers, except Anibal Sanchez and Miguel Cabrera are already healing up. Let's just go ahead and go into 5 questions, shall we?
Let him rip, Taylor.
It's time for 5 questions with Taylor the Gator Phillips.
Question number 1, should Andreas Athanasiou be signed to an NHL contract by the Red Wings and become an NHL All-Star next season?
Yes, he should be signed to a contract. He should have been signed to a contract after the Dallas game. She's showcasing one good reason why you're trying on the bounce back surge, so to speak, as we head towards the playoff stretch here, or stretch towards the playoffs, I should say. Now, is it going to have the type of year that Dylan Larkin had? Who's to say? Who knows? Probably have a bit of a slight down adjustment scale from this year, but still, he's a young guy. He's contributing greatly, and he's doing it in far less ice time than he should be getting. So yeah, give the kid a shot, let him roll with it, see how it goes.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Next question.
Question number 2, should the Wings terminate Jonathan Ericsson after what he did to cost his team a regulation win coming off a lower body injury, considering his history of so many turnovers as of the last couple seasons now?
Nah, if Ken Holland still sees value in him, he's going to ride that pony as long as he could. Look how long it took him to finally trade a guy like Jakob Kindl, okay? And now you expect him to just cut ties with a guy like Ericsson? No way. If he's still holding on to the corpse that is Johan Franzen, it's going to take something very drastic and severe for old Kenny Boy to part ways with JoJo Eric.
Right out of hell.
JoJo Eric. Kind of a girl's name right there. But anyway, moving on.
Next question.
Question number 3. Did Donatas Moody... Oh, yeah, we forgot to get to... we already got to that. Yep. Did Donatas Motiejunas deserve better after having the trade get voided?
Well, I'm not sure necessarily what else you could do. I mean, he had a physical. Things didn't work out. And so, it wouldn't necessarily look good on a team if you're saying, oh, you didn't do this portion of your physical. It's why we have physicals to begin with. If you're able to fully pass it with all flying colors, by all means, hey, nothing's stopping you. But if you're unable to pass it, not necessarily an indictment on you. It's just an acknowledgement of the situation at hand, and it preserves the team that's potentially invested in you taking a burn, and allows both parties or the multiple parties involved to reset things a little bit. So Sure, it's a bummer that we, in many instances that the trade could not be completed. But hey, maybe if all things go well, maybe you could try to get a little bit healthier and try again in the off season.
Yeah, we had a Pistons article. We had an article we had an article that said that in which Donatas Motiejunas said he got screwed, that the Pistons used the physical as an excuse to change their mind on that trade and decided to void it. That I forgot to get to that. My mind is slipping.
I wouldn't necessarily call it an excuse when it's kind of known by most circles of your health issues beforehand. It was before, the news about this trade came about. So, say it's an excuse, it's kind of a stretch because if there was an excuse, they wouldn't have even called you to begin with. But that's just my take on that.
Mm-hmm. But Motiejunas quoted, "The medical examination is a funny thing. The team doctor simply says whether you pass or don't, although they may not even do any checks. Those 48 hours actually just let the team decide whether they want you or not. The Pistons announced I did not pass the medical, although I surely did pass it and played even before it. I just got screwed. The injury was a pretense to call off the trade. They changed their minds," unquote. So it is evident that Motiejunas did pass a physical when the Pistons decide to say that he failed the physical.
Well, I guess this is where one aspect of the whole another side of sports, where this is a business also. It's not just pure sport. This is a business that garners the all parties involved are looking out for their own best interests, and I'm sure the Pistons saw what might be, could potentially be something. Whatever, we won't know for sure with Motiejunas, but probably they had something else in mind. And if this was convenient enough for them, I'm sure I can sympathize with Motiejunas from his standpoint for sure. But at the end of the day, this is a business, and the Pistons were just looking out for their best interest in this particular moment, in this particular instance. Damn it!
Follow-up question: how valuable would Donatas Motiejunas have been to the Pistons in addition to the trade for Tobias Harris?
Oh, a very welcomed addition. The more help with your bigs, the better. You've seen what, like I mentioned, you saw what Cleveland was doing in the finals. Especially when Kevin Love in the playoffs last season. Especially when Kevin Love went down, you saw Timofey Mozgov and Tristan Thompson become absolute beasts on the boards. You could now you can replicate something here, but only from the offensive standpoint with Harris and Motiejunas. Obviously, now you can't do that, and I doubt now we'll see that in the near future. But it would have been something nice to see. But unfortunately, you got to deal with the cards that you're dealt with. So I think the Pistons are doing they're doing fine so far. We're set to see how it all works out and plays out in the end.
Yeah, we'll see. Because had they taken Motiejunas anyway, they would have reached at least the second round, maybe the conference finals.
Well, that's maybe I would say second round is a more possibility because you never know what your matchup, who you're going to draw in the second round. Yeah, you might win your first round matchup, but who's to say, you're going to get matched up with the Cavs in the second round? Yeah, no chance in hell on that one, as Vince McMahon's theme song would say.
Well, the Pistons destroyed the Cavaliers and the Raptors previously, especially with Tobias Harris.
Yeah, but like I mentioned, Toronto, they had rested Kyle Lowry, and let's be honest, in that Cleveland game, as great as the team performed, LeBron James did have an off night. I doubt we're going to see that happen 4 times in a 7-game stretch. Some will say, "Oh, that was the finals." Well, guess what? Yeah, it was in the finals against great teams.
Like the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, a Golden State or a Dallas Mavericks or San Antonio Spurs. Those are great teams in those specific years. The Pistons, they may be good. They have the potential to be above average, but they're not great. They're nowhere near that caliber. So even if LeBron has a quote-unquote off night, like, say, 2 times in the span of this whole series, they still have other weapons. Kevin Love, when healthy. Kyrie Irving. I've already mentioned Mozgov and Thompson. J.R. Smith, when he's on and hot and shooting from 3. Those are a multitude of weapons that Cleveland can just slash with from all different types of angles. So, yeah, against a team like the Pistons, no, he's, essentially close to easy work as you could possibly get, even if and that's without LeBron being at his utmost excellence. So, yeah, I would say, if the Pistons reach the second round this year and try to, my hat will already be off to them. And even if they win a game or 2 or take this series to the limit, I'd be even more proud. But I think that's as far as their ceiling can go. And it can be used as a motivator / experience lesson to help build towards something bigger and better in the future. I don't want to go, rush everything in, luck into one thing one year and then slowly exasperate the next couple years after. Because I hate to say it, it's what happened to Michigan basketball now. They hit it big. They made it big one year, almost got there the next year, but then we've seen in the past 2 years since then all that. It hasn't gone so well. So I'd rather build up and then have that perfect payoff at the end and just hot shot it now and then try to figure out, can we regain that heat in the aftermath?
Another follow-up question. Is there any way the Pistons can redo the trade like this upcoming off season in the summer?
I'm sure they can. I mean, it's the off season. It's not like you're facing a trade deadline anymore. Really, the only question mark is with Montejunis, since he stated in his own words, in his own vernacular, that he was quote unquote screwed, would he even want to do business with the Pistons again? That's the only question regarding this. I'm sure the Pistons might, especially now in the off season, they might want to consider taking an open chance, a second look, rather, I should say. But if Montejunis feels he felt so slighted by the first time going around, he is more than welcome in his right to refuse it the second time. So, we'll see how it goes. But I'm sure the Pistons will be more than willing to go through it. Montejunis, on the other hand, not so much.
All right, moving on to question number 4.
Next question.
Should the Lions sign strong safety George Iloka from the Cincinnati Bengals?
Hello, Taylor.
Ed? Yeah, I'll ask it again. Question number 4. Should the Lions sign Bengals strong safety George Iloka?
Repeat the question just one more time, Taylor. My apologies.
Question number 4. Should the Lions sign Cincinnati Bengals strong safety George Iloka?
Well, if you have enough money on you, sure, why not? I'm sure they got plenty of it. Unless Cincinnati offers a better offer or another team offers a better offer, sure, go for it. Why not? You want to replace a headed belt, but if you can do it at do it now, do it here, and do it at a cheaper price, which you would consider an adequate strong safety, do it by all means. Be my guest here.
All right, question number 5.
Next question.
Do the Spartans deserve to be ranked second in the nation?
Well, interesting question to look at from a different perspective. When they played as of late, I would say yes. And if you consider how they played as a whole overall, I'd be more inclined to say yes as well, because they started the season highly ranked as well. They had an outstanding out-of-conference schedule. Yeah, they had a few trips and stumbles and falls here in the conference, during the conference portion, but they rectified that quickly, and they've been on a roll ever since. Very rarely are we going to see a team, pitch pitch perfect in every sense of the word, every game, every standpoint, whatever the case may be, on their schedule. And really, I think the mark of a true great team is how can you overcome adversity, how can you overcome weaknesses, challenges that are presented in front of you. And this Michigan State team has done it in spades. In spades. No surprise when you see who's their head coach. No surprise in the fact that, once again, you have senior leadership. No surprise that this is a program that's been building upon this for essentially 20 years now. So, do they deserve the number 2 ranking? I would say yes. Not just in short term, but also long term as well. So I would say yes.
That's very good to hear. And for all the listeners and fans out there, if you want to answer those questions, just replay the episode and answer them in the comment bank below this episode. That wraps up episode 201 of the Detroit Sports Truth. Finally, Ed, thanks so much again for your help. Once again, we do apologize for technical difficulties due to the Verizon cell phone tower being a bitch, like all the time.
A pain in the ass is more accurate, but it's both sayings are more than welcome here.
Kind of the same thing. Yep. But anyway, Ed, thanks for your help. I will talk to you Friday at 12:30 for episode 202.
Already looking forward to it, Taylor, and I think we just added a new sound clip to the future DSR podcast episodes. So good going there.
Thanks. And that wraps up episode 201.
Thank you for the call. Next.
All right, that's got to go.
So, for Ed Smith, I'm Taylor Phillips. If there's anything you fans want more of or less of on our podcast, please let us know. Talk to you Friday at 12:30 on episode 202. TTFN, ta-ta for now.
Bon appétit.